Mark and Elena earn $205,000 a year combined. Chris and Danielle earn $192,000 a year combined. Both couples are 39 years old. Both have 2 kids. Both live in similar neighborhoods outside large cities. Both say they are doing well. At age 45, Mark and Elena have about $140,000 saved for retirement and carry $30,000 in credit card and car debt. Chris and Danielle have over $700,000 invested and no consumer debt. The income difference between them was never very large. So what happened? Most people believe 2 incomes automatically create financial security. 2 paychecks feel powerful. If 1 income can support a household, then 2 should make things easy. But income is not wealth. Income is money that comes in. Wealth is money that stays and grows. There is a big difference between earning money and keeping enough of it to invest. When Elena returned to work after their second child, their income jumped from $135,000 to $205,000. It felt like a breakthrough. They upgraded from a $2,400 mortgage to a $4,000 mortgage. They replaced one car, then the other. Childcare cost $2,500 a month. They started ordering more meals because both were tired after work. They hired a cleaning service to save time. None of these choices felt extreme. Each one felt reasonable compared to their income. Their fixed monthly bills, the ones that repeat every month no matter what, rose to about $14,000. After taxes, insurance, and retirement contributions, they brought home around $15,500 a month. That left roughly $1,500 in breathing room. Some months it was less. Now look at Chris and Danielle. When Danielle returned to work, their income increased from $130,000 to $192,000. They decided to keep their housing payment close to where it was. They delayed upgrading both cars at the same time. They set up automatic transfers so that 30% of their income went into investments before they adjusted their lifestyle. Their fixed monthly bills settled near $10,500. After taxes and deductions, they brought home about $14,800 a month. That left roughly $4,300 in breathing room. The difference between $1,500 and $4,300 per month is $2,800. Over 1 year, that is $33,600. If that $33,600 is invested every year and grows at 8% per year, close to the long-term historical average return of the S&P 500 before inflation, according to S&P Dow Jones indices, it becomes about $2.4 million after 25 years. That is the power of small differences repeated consistently. Mark and Elena are not reckless. They work hard. They earn strong incomes. Their home looks successful from the outside. Their children have activities and opportunities. But most of their second income turned into permanent bills. Chris and Danielle did not earn dramatically more. They simply kept more of what they earned available for investing. This is where many dual-income households get confused. When income rises, spending often rises with it. Bigger house, newer cars, more convenience, higher expectations. After a year or two, the new level of spending feels normal. Once it feels normal, it feels permanent. That is how 2 incomes can exist without building wealth. The real question is not how much comes in. The real question is how much is left over after the structure of your life is paid for. That leftover amount, even if it seems small, decides what your money becomes 20 or 25 years later. And once that structure expands, it becomes very hard to shrink. This is only the starting point. The deeper reasons appear when we look at how fixed costs grow, how taxes reduce the second income, and how waiting too long to invest quietly changes everything. The first reason 2 incomes do not turn into wealth is simple. When income goes up, fixed costs usually go up too. Mechanism 1. Fixed cost expansion. A fixed cost is a bill that repeats every month and is hard to reduce quickly. Your mortgage, your car payment, insurance, private school tuition, long-term subscriptions. These are not small daily choices, they are commitments. Housing is usually the biggest one. Let's say a couple moves from a $2,500 monthly housing payment to $4,200 after their second income becomes permanent. That difference is $1,700 per month. Over 1 year, that is $20,400. Now imagine that $20,400 is invested every year instead of spent. If it grows at 8% per year, a number often used to model long-term stock market returns based on historical S&P 500 data. After 25 years, it becomes roughly $1.5 million. The decision did not feel like a $1 million decision. It felt like a $1,700 monthly upgrade. That is how fixed costs quietly shape the future. And the mortgage is only the first layer. A larger house usually means higher property taxes, higher insurance, higher utility bills, more furniture, more maintenance. Each piece adds to the monthly baseline. Now add childcare. In many parts of the United States, full-time childcare can cost $15,000 to $25,000 per child each year. For 2 children, that can easily reach $30,000 to $40,000 per year. So let's break this down clearly. Imagine the second income is $90,000 per year. After federal and state taxes, that might drop to about $65,000. Then subtract $35,000 for childcare. Subtract another $10,000 for commuting, work clothes, and meals purchased because both parents are busy. What is left might be closer to $20,000. But spending decisions are often based on the $90,000 number, not the $20,000 number. That difference is where wealth disappears. The second reason is closely connected. Mechanism 2. Lifestyle reset. When income increases, expectations increase. At first, the bigger house feels exciting, the new car feels special, the nicer vacations feel earned. But after a year or two, they feel normal. This is called lifestyle inflation. It simply means spending rises to match income. Here's a clear example. 2 households earn $220,000 per year. Household A spends $200,000 and saves $20,000. Household B spends $150,000 and saves $70,000. The difference in savings is $50,000 per year. If both households invest their savings at 8% for 25 years, $20,000 per year grows to about $1.46 million. $70,000 per year grows to about $5.13 million. The difference is more than $3.5 million. Both households look successful from the outside. Both may live in similar neighborhoods, but their future is very different. The key is what happens to the second income. Does it raise the baseline of spending? Or does it raise the level of investing? There is another effect most people do not notice. When both adults work full-time, time becomes scarce. When time is scarce, convenience becomes attractive. More takeout, more delivery, more paid services, more subscriptions. Each one feels small. Together they permanently raise the monthly burn rate. And once that burn rate becomes normal, it becomes hard to reduce without feeling like you are going backward. This is how 2 incomes can exist and still feel tight. Fixed costs grow, lifestyle resets upward, the margin, the money left over, stays small. The deeper problem begins when taxes reduce the second income more than expected, and when waiting to invest even a few years changes the outcome in ways that are hard to recover from. Fixed costs explain where the money goes. Lifestyle reset explains why it keeps going. The third reason involves taxes. Mechanism 3. Marginal tax compression. In the United States, income taxes are progressive. That simply means the more you earn, the higher the tax rate on the next dollar you earn. This is called a marginal tax rate. If one spouse earns $120,000 and the other earns $100,000, the second income does not start at the lowest tax rate. It stacks on top of the first income. That means much of the second paycheck may be taxed at 22%, 24%, or higher at the federal level. Add state taxes and payroll taxes, and the percentage taken from that second income can be much larger than people expect. So let's make it simple. Imagine the second spouse earns $100,000. After federal taxes, state taxes, and payroll taxes, maybe $65,000 to $70,000 is left. Now subtract childcare, subtract commuting, subtract work-related costs. The amount actually available for saving might be $30,000 to $40,000. But when people think about income, they think about the full $100,000. If spending rises based on the full number instead of the smaller number that remains, the gap becomes permanent. Now look at the long-term impact. If a household invests $40,000 per year at 8% for 25 years, it grows to roughly $2.9 million. If they invest only $20,000 per year, It grows to about $1.46 million. The difference is over $1.4 million. That difference comes from understanding how much of the second income is truly investable. The fourth reason is timing. Mechanism 4. Time leverage loss. Compounding means your money earns returns, and then those returns earn returns. The earlier you start, the more powerful it becomes. Let's look at two simple examples. Example A. A couple invests $40,000 per year from age 35 to age 45. After 10 years, they stop contributing but leave the money invested until age 65. If it grows at 8% per year, that early decade can grow to roughly $2.1 million by age 65. Example B. Another couple waits until age 45 to start investing $40,000 per year. They invest from 45 to 55, then stop, and let it grow until 65 at the same 8% rate. That later decade might grow to about $1.08 million. Same contribution. Same growth rate. Very different result. The only difference was starting earlier. Many dual-income households delay serious investing because expenses feel high in their late 30s and early 40s. They plan to catch up later. But later does not fully replace earlier. Time is the most powerful multiplier in investing. Once it is lost, it cannot be recovered completely. The fifth reason is dependency. Mechanism 5. Dependency on two incomes. When both incomes are required to pay the bills, the household becomes fragile. Let's define optionality in simple terms. Optionality means having choices. Choices like reducing work hours, changing careers, taking time off, surviving a layoff without panic. If a household earns $220,000 and spends $205,000, they have very little room for error. If one $110,000 income disappears, the bills still remain. Now imagine another household earning the same $220,000, but spending $150,000. If one income disappears, they can still function. That difference is not just comfort, it is stability. History shows that income disruptions happen. During recessions, unemployment can rise sharply. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported unemployment peaking at 10% during the 2008 financial crisis, and even higher briefly in 2020. When a household runs close to its income limit, any shock becomes stressful. When a household keeps a large margin, shocks become manageable. Taxes reduce the second income more than expected. Waiting to invest reduces compounding power. Depending on both incomes removes flexibility. Each piece alone may seem manageable. Together, they explain why two strong paychecks do not automatically create wealth. The difference between struggling and secure is rarely income alone. It is structure. The 5 reasons we just covered are easier to understand when we put real numbers next to them. Let's compare two households. Both earn $200,000 per year. Both are 35 years old. Both invest in broad stock market index funds. To keep this simple, we will assume an 8% annual return. That number is often used to model long-term stock market growth based on historical S&P 500 averages before inflation, according to S&P Dow Jones indices. This is not a guarantee, it is a model. Now look at the difference in structure. Household, a thin margin. Annual income, $200,000. Annual spending, $180,000. Annual investing, $20,000. They feel comfortable, they travel, they have nice cars, they are not reckless. They invest $20,000 every year for 25 years. At 8% growth, $20,000 invested annually for 25 years grows to about $1.46 million. That sounds like a large number. But now look at the second household. Household B, large margin. Annual income, $200,000. Annual spending, $145,000. Annual investing, $55,000. They live well, but they kept their spending from rising too quickly. They automated investing before upgrading their lifestyle. They invest $55,000 every year for 25 years. At 8% growth, $55,000 invested annually for 25 years grows to about $4.02 million. The income was the same. The market return was the same. The only difference was how much was invested. The gap between $1.46 million and $4.02 million is more than $2.5 million. Now let's translate that into retirement income. A common guideline called the 4% rule suggests that you can withdraw about 4% of your portfolio per year in retirement and have a reasonable chance of the money lasting for decades. This rule is based on historical market studies and is used only as a rough planning tool. If household A retires with $1.46 million, 4% of that is about $58,000 per year before taxes. If household B retires with $4 million, 4% is about $160,000 per year before taxes. That is a massive difference in flexibility. Household B can retire earlier, travel more, help children with college, handle medical expenses more easily, reduce risk during market downturns. Household A must be more careful. They are more sensitive to market declines, especially in the early years of retirement. If the market falls sharply right after they retire, their smaller portfolio has less room to recover. There is another layer most people overlook. If household A occasionally pauses investing because of tight cash flow, or if they carry high-interest debt, their final number will likely be lower than $1.46 million. If household B continues investing even during downturns when markets are cheaper, their final number could be higher than $4 million. Small annual differences create large lifetime differences. That is the quiet power of structure. The difference between investing $20,000 and $55,000 per year may not feel dramatic in 1 year. It may not even feel dramatic in 5 years. Over 25 years, it becomes life-changing in a very literal, mathematical sense. 2 incomes give both households the ability to save more. Only one household built its life around that ability. The next step is understanding how to design that structure on purpose, instead of letting spending rise automatically. 2 incomes are not the problem. The problem is how those incomes are structured. Let's simplify everything. Income is the money you earn. Margin is the money left after your main bills are paid. Wealth is what happens when margin is invested for a long time. If income rises but margin does not rise, wealth does not rise much either. So how do 2 incomes actually create wealth? The first step is controlling fixed costs. When income increases, it is tempting to upgrade everything at once. Bigger house, new cars, more services. But every upgrade becomes a permanent bill. If your housing cost rises at the same speed as your income, your margin stays small. If your income rises 20%, but your housing rises only 5%, that difference becomes savings. Over time, that gap compounds. The second step is investing first, upgrading later. This is a sequencing issue. If you wait to see what is left over at the end of the month, there is often very little left. Spending expands to fill the available space. Instead, move money into investments automatically as soon as income arrives. Many retirement plans use automatic enrollment and automatic increases because research from firms like Vanguard shows people save more when the process is automatic. The idea is simple. Invest first. Spend what remains. The third step is something called a single income stress test. This does not mean you must live on one income forever. It means asking a simple question. If one income disappeared tomorrow, could we still pay our core bills? Core bills mean housing, food, utilities, insurance, transportation, and minimum debt payments. If the answer is no, then both incomes are required just to survive. That means there is very little flexibility. If the answer is yes, even temporarily, then you have options. Options mean you can change jobs without panic. You can take time off if needed. You can handle layoffs more calmly. That flexibility has value. The fourth step is protecting the early compounding window. Your late 30s and 40s are powerful investing years. Money invested at 35 has 30 years to grow before age 65. Money invested at 50 has only 15 years. Even if you invest more later, you cannot fully replace lost time. Time is the multiplier. The fifth step is resisting lifestyle reset. When income increases, do not increase spending immediately. Let the higher savings rate feel normal first. People adapt to higher spending quickly, but they can also adapt to higher saving quickly. If saving 30% of income becomes your new normal, spending will adjust downward around it. Over 20 or 25 years, that difference becomes millions. 2 incomes can create extraordinary wealth, but only if the second income becomes long-term margin instead of long-term obligation. The households that remain stressed despite high income usually expanded their lifestyle first and invested second. The households that build lasting wealth invested first and expanded carefully. The difference is not intelligence, it is structure. Income gives you the opportunity. Structure decides what that opportunity becomes. If you focus on how money flows instead of just how much flows in, you begin to see patterns most people miss. This channel exists to break down those patterns clearly, step by step, so you can think in decades instead of pay cycles.